Why, hello there, Minnesota Vikings fans. Jacob. And, well, I don't know if you watched that game yesterday, but holy Moses! Was that a drumming? Was that an annihilation? Was that a defensive master a class? So yeah, let's go ahead and break that down, shall we? So yeah, the Minnesota Vikings took on the Cincinnati Bengals yesterday and, well, not only defeated them, but beat the ever-loving brakes off of them by a score of 48-10 off of a literally historic day by Isaiah Rodgers, who had both a pick six and a fumble punch-out six. Which, if I remember right, I think they said, like in the NFL history books, that was the first time ever. Or in a very, very long time. One of the two, I don't know. I've heard conflicting reports on that, but this was by far one of the best individual defensive performances I have seen, maybe ever, if I'm being honest with you. If not for a very, very, very long time with this group. So, with all that being said, let's go ahead and kind of dive into a little bit of it here. So yeah, obviously the defense was a masterclass. And Carson Wentz himself actually looked pretty darn solid. I mean, he drove the ship. He, got a couple passing touchdowns through the air. One to Josh Oliver, one to TJ Hawkinson. And then Jordan Mason, thanks to the return of Christian Darrisaw, also went off for 16 rushes, a buck 16, and 2 touchdowns. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, I had him on my fantasy team's bench. By the way, Vikings fans, you're welcome. Because for whatever reason, it seems like most Vikings players outside of like Jefferson and probably Hawkinson, if they're on my fantasy bench, they're going to go off for like 30, 40 points, like 150 yards, 3 touchdowns, that sort of thing. Or if I put them on my starting lineup, they're going to be more like 50 yards, 2 drop passes, and injury. Yeah, it usually doesn't end well for me for whatever reason. I mean, just ask Michael Penix, who had to come in for both an injured Jaden Daniels and J.J. McCarthy. Yeah, it's not looking so good for my quarterbacks there. But anyway, regardless, coming back to this game, yeah, I mean, this was just a masterclass in pretty much every facet of the game. I mean, even Will Reichard smoked a 62-yard field goal that could have been good from damn near 70. At least 65. Maybe not quite 70. But still, he hooked that baby right through. Money to end the half. But yeah, like I said, I really don't have a whole lot else to say. There really wasn't anything that was overly bad about this game outside of penalties. I will say penalties have been they've kind of been an issue. We'll just leave it at that for now. A lot of procedural penalties, a lot of false starts, some ticky-tack hitting penalties that, are always subjective for the most part, at least in my opinion. But yeah, at the end of the day, though, the Vikings, there was really nothing to... There's really nothing to complain about much. Granted, it's also helpful, too, that Darrisaw's now back. We get Jordan Addison going into Dublin. That'll be huge. And, yeah. Pretty much short, sweet, to the point on that one. However, though, now comes the fun part. Because Carson Wentz had a good game. J.J. McCarthy's had one good quarter of football. Today's literally the first day of fall. Like, literally the first day of meteorological fall. And everybody's already wondering if Carson Wentz should start the rest of the season, or if it should be J.J. McCarthy once he gets back. Oh, boy. All I know with this is, look, Carson Wentz had a good game, but there's still 2 more games upcoming that, all I'm going to say is if Carson Wentz goes out and has, even improves on what he did this week in Dublin and then in London, who knows? Then we have a different conversation. But yeah, Steelers didn't look great yesterday from what I saw, but still managed to pull a victory out of their butts because New England apparently choked it away. Again, as a Vikings fan, I kind of understand. So yeah, we've been on the, bad side of a couple of those type of games. So, I mean, it is what it is at the end of the day, though. However, the problem is kind of like what I said earlier, and also, I just got done watching Purple for the Win video, who said that basically the same thing I kind of uttered last week, but this is a very microwave society in football, where if you're not prime Joe Montana by week 3, you're a bust, and I'm like, you do realize that's rarely how that happens, right? Like, I mean, there's this thing called a development curve. And I know Tom Brady, even up in the broadcaster booth has said stuff like that too, where it's like, the problem is, it's like, the days of actually developing quarterbacks are pretty much none anymore, if we're being honest with ourselves here. Which I don't necessarily agree with, but I also understand too where Vikings fans are coming from too, because we have a roster that is a Super Bowl caliber roster for the most part. Granted, I'd still like to see us get some more secondary help, even with Isaiah Rodgers having the day he had last week. But, yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see, because, again, the Steelers' defense may not be as great as it has been in the past, but they still got a pretty nasty pass rush. And then also, we can't overlook Cleveland either going into London, because, I don't know if you saw that, but Cleveland took down the Packers in Cleveland. So, yeah, like, as much as I'd love to come on here and flap my gums, it's literally week 3. There's no... Besides, I'm not really one of those that trash talks just because, again, it's not like the Vikings have really given me any reason to trash talk, for being honest. But regardless, though, so yeah, 2 opponents that are nothing to sneeze at. And ironically enough, this will also make the second year in a row we played Aaron Rodgers overseas. But anyway, regardless, just a little fun nugget for you. But yeah, really didn't have a whole lot else on that. Just a solid, dominant win. Just decided to kind of take the day off yesterday, enjoy watching some football, and figured jump on today and kind of give my thoughts and opinions. And yeah, I mean, so far, these first 3 weeks of the NFL season have been very, very, very interesting, we'll just kind of say. Obviously, early headlines being, are the Chiefs finally falling apart? Are the Packers the best team in the NFL? Are the Bills finally going to take that step? Are the Ravens this? Just a lot of different question marks. And also, the freaking Colts are 3-0 with Daniel Jones. Raise your hand if you saw that coming in your bingo card. And Houston is 0-3. Definitely something to keep an eye on here, especially as we get later on into the season. Now, again, my threshold is, come Halloween, how do you look? Because that's a little over halfway, right around halfway for a lot of teams. And, yeah, I mean, that's typically about the point where we start seeing which teams are for real, which teams aren't, or just injured to heck and back. But, yeah, just a little, also some NFL news thrown in there as well. Alrighty, well, I think I've rambled on long enough here, but stay tuned because, well, let's just say I have a couple of pickups coming this week, including one that may or may not show up either today or tomorrow, but, yeah, be making a video here pretty soon on something that I'm very, very excited to get. So, until we meet again, this is Jacob. Have a good one.